I'm standing on the northern boundary of the coastal city of Caesarea Maritima in Israel. This was the jewel of the Mediterranean. It was one of the most amazingly engineered cities of the ancient world. The ocean that you can possibly hear, the waves beating on the shore where we're filming, actually was used twice a day through the tides to completely cleanse the city. The sewer system was tied to the ocean tides. When Herod engineered this city, he made it an amazing spot, the best port on the entire Mediterranean coast. That's the reason I came to film this segment. This final segment in our life of Christ in the Holy Land through the land of the book is looking at Caesarea Maritima and answering the question why Jesus came. Jesus came in order for the gospel to go global. That was always his plan. As early as Psalm 22, when the Lord's Supper was prophesied, the Lord said that all the nations of the world will come and gather to celebrate the death of Christ. So in each of the videos of this final part of our series of why Jesus came, we're going to look at one of the reasons why he came. The first one here at this aqueduct that I'll be talking about in just a moment is because Jesus was the one who came to give life-giving waters. This aqueduct carried the water from almost 20 miles away in the Carmel mountain range from a spring all the way down to this massive city. And Jesus is the one who came to give life-giving waters, but not if you were connected to some artificial conduit, but if we had him living within us as we do. The second video, we're going to go to the theater where Paul makes one of the most amazing confessions of Christ. In Acts 26, as Paul is standing in a trial scene before Herod's descendants, before the Roman procurator, and all of the witnesses, he gives his testimony of conversion on the road to Damascus. And there he says these words, that Jesus came to open our eyes, to turn us from darkness to light, to set us free from the power of Satan unto God, that we might receive forgiveness of sins and an eternal inheritance, and go through life being sanctified. We'll study that when we're in the theater in the second video of this series. The third spot we're going to stop is in Herod's palace, which is just around the corner from where I'm standing. Herod's palace had a guardhouse. It was the armory and the secure room if there was any danger for Herod. It was called the Praetorium because that's where, under the Roman procurator, there was a contingent of Caesar's special forces to guard the governor. In that was also a prison where the Apostle Paul was imprisoned for more than 2 years right here. Now remember, Paul had just come off his 3 missionary journeys. He had just sailed in from Ephesus. He had gone from Ephesus right here to this harbor up to Jerusalem, and he was captured and brought as a prisoner to that Praetorium. It's very possible the Apostle Paul wrote the prison epistles. Now remember, there are 4 epistles Paul wrote from jail, and they're Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. Paul had just returned from Ephesus and Philippi and was in jail right there for over 2 years. It's very possible when you read the book of Philippians, you're reading about the joy that Paul received while in jail. When you read about the epistle to the Ephesians, about the dress of the Roman soldier, Paul was under guard in that Praetorium. And in that video, we will look at Paul and the joy that Jesus gives even when we're in jail. And then we're going to go from there outside the city. The first place that there were Christian martyrs in all of this part of the Middle East was right diagonal from me right here, an amphitheater where Christians did all the types of things you read about in the Colosseum. They were thrown to the animals, they were gladiatorially killed, they were crucified. All types of horrors took place right across diagonal from this aqueduct in the Caesarea amphitheater. That's different than the theater that Paul gave his testimony in. The amphitheater is a circular amphitheater for sports, and we'll go there. And finally, when we stand on the edge of the inner harbor that's just around the corner where I'm standing, we will be at the spot where Paul came and went in all of his missionary journeys. It's from that spot Paul, after his conversion, went back to Tarsus, his hometown. It's from that spot that Paul met with Philip in Acts 21. It's from that spot that Paul came and went from his missionary journeys. But why Jesus came is for the gospel to go global, and it did from right here. This is also the spot where the very first Gentile believer, like most of us are, the first Gentile believer heard the gospel, received the gospel, was baptized as a believer, and was filled with the Holy Spirit right here in Caesarea Maritima. This is the spot where we see most clearly why Jesus came, and we see he came for the gospel of salvation to go global.